So I think I've been asked to share just three thoughts, really, which is based on a book that we published during the annual meetings for the IMF and World Bank last week. And the book is called Just Transitions, and it brings together 30 politicians, parliamentarians, policymakers, experts from around the world to reflect on what the roadmap post-COVID now needs to look like. And I want to draw out to just sort of three thoughts from that, which really kind of struck me. The first thought really is that recovering from COVID, unfortunately, is simply going to be the first circle of hell. I mean, the crash that we are watching unfold is much, much bigger than we had 10 years ago. This is going to be the worst global recession since the 1930s. FDI into emerging markets will take at least 10 years to recover. Half of jobs in Africa may go. Many countries are seeing many fewer hours worked now than after the last financial crash. So this really is a very significant moment. I mean, for a long time, we've talked about being in an era of change. This is now very much a change of era. But recovering from COVID is first base, because what the book tries to set out are what I've called the three rises that we now need to think about. So the rise in temperature, the rise in technology, and the rise in trade wars. And these will shape, no matter who wins the American elections, these will shape much of our world. So if you think about the rise in temperature, 140 million people may need to migrate because of rising temperatures by 2030. Just to put that in context, that's 3 times the level of migration that we've had since 2005. And we know how hard that has been for politicians to manage. Second, what we've called the fourth industrial revolution, that's now going to accelerate. Automation is definitely going to get faster now. That is going to affect about 1.4 billion of the world's 3.5 billion jobs. Here in Birmingham, where I'm speaking to you from, we think about 100 to 200,000 people may lose their jobs due to automation. What are they going to do? How are they going to work? What are their livelihoods going to look like in the years to come? And then third, on trade conflicts, if Biden wins, there may be a bit of a rapprochement with China, but the truth is that the global trade system is broken, and that is affecting the diffusion of technology now. And so that will be a challenge for us too. Here, it may mean, worst case scenario, a no deal Brexit, or certainly a suboptimal Brexit. So, for all of those reasons, we're in for a really difficult decade. Now, the second point then is how the hell we navigate through this. And what was really striking is that in the book is that we've tried to kind of put together what has been widely talked about, this concept of a new social contract. The argument I suppose I make is that the discussion on the new social contract needs to move from poetry to prose. We actually need to start writing down what the hell it means. What are the rights? How do we actually make a reality of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris climate commitments in a way that makes sense in cities here like Birmingham? There will be new things that we have to wire in, crucially, welfare systems that help people retrain and retrain and retrain again. Good health systems that combat chronic health problems, like pandemics. So actually the rights of citizens in the 21st century need updating. Crucially, however, we've got to figure out how to pay for them. Contracts have to be paid for. And therefore, there will need to be a new debate on tax. I argue elsewhere that this is the progress will require action on the 3 C's: carpetbaggers, carbon, and capital. We have to clamp down on tax avoidance in new ways. We have to start, if not taxing wealth, then taxing the wealthy and in crucially capital gains. And the world has got to start setting a proper carbon price at nearer $55 than where it is today. All of those things are important for us in the UK. And then the final piece of the puzzle is about inclusive capital markets. So we are not going to be able to finance the new social contract without mobilising private sector investment in very significant ways. That means mobilising pension savings. So globally, there's about $35 trillion in pension savings. We've just hit an interesting milestone in the UK. We've now got 12 million pension savers because also enrolment has fully rolled out. We've just finished modelling what that means for people's holding of equity. So at peak, we think that people will now own maybe £72,000 worth of equities. At the moment, it's impossible for workers to invest those pension savings in companies that aren't holding down wages, dodging their taxes, and killing the planet. So there is going to be a really important set of changes to capital markets, so that actually capital markets and long-term savings are unlocked in to invest in virtuous things like new businesses, new technologies, and new infrastructure too. So there is a lot to navigate. It means that good people in public life are going to be more important than ever before. And crucially, I think, and this is my last point really, we've got to think much harder about the framework of rights and responsibilities to each other and to the planet, because unless we start writing down much more clearly what we want by way of outcomes and how we are going to pay for it, then frankly, I don't think there's going to be a lot of progress over the next 2 to 3 years. And the truth is that some states will not survive those pressures. You're seeing separatist pressures now in about 70 to 80 countries. Those pressures are only going to grow more pronounced. So unless we find new ways of reinventing the art of cooperation, then frankly, we're in for a pretty difficult ride over the next 10 years. Nisa, I'll stop there. Hope that's a good way to get things going.
My goodness me, talk about expanding the conversation.